Hello everybody, Mr. Cherry here. Hopefully coming through pretty good on the microphone. I do apologize for the background music. Here we have KLF 300 motor. This is from the Bayou 300, Lakota 300. I think the Prairie 300 as well uses at least something like this, if not the same one. I know that there's some differences between them, but essentially this one, right? So this is the KLF 300. This is out of my 89 Bayou 300. So, older style motor. There may be some changes and updates that have occurred. I'm going to put down in the bottom timestamps, hopefully, if I remember correctly, to help anybody who is looking more to diagnose things or get ideas on teardowns. Multi-part as well, most likely going to be, I might split the case, I might just tear down to the head. This guy has basically seized. We could barely see on this side, but we have the crank here, or I should say the starter section. I don't know exactly what I would call this one, but it's not what I'm worried about. Got me my 1.5 feet long, and if I get that in there, you see, even with that, she really does not like to turn too well. But if I go ahead, put that aside, I'll show you kind of what the issue is here. Put that aside, and just in case you're wondering, for spark plugs, as with most things, generally, yes, you can get spark plug sockets. I have here, 13/16. There's a 3/4, and there's a 5/8 in here. Well, that's not going to work for mine, because 3/4 is too loose. In fact, mine is an 18mm here. Let's go ahead and turn on this flashlight deal. So that way we can manage getting in here a little bit better. Now this is a frozen deal here, but 18mm is actually what size my socket is for the spark plug. And then this is a different one that I put in. Ran at one range hotter during the winter. I'm believing that may have contributed to the case of the motor seizing up kind of like this. It's weird though, because if I pull this spark plug, and of course, I don't have any power to it currently, but if I did, and I gave it a start, or try, hopefully my phone doesn't overheat again here. So, anyway, essentially, motor will not turn by hand very easily. But we pull this spark plug out here. Also, I am back on in here. I want to be all the way zoomed out. There we go. So spark plug, maybe a touch on the lean side, but everything seemed to have been running pretty good that way. Relatively, it's a carburetor setup, and there may have been a leak in here. There may not have been. It's hard for me to tell. Original person I bought it from redid the carburetor, but that did not go out very well, right? It was not set up right at all. Anyway, we got that pulled. Now, back on over here. Go ahead and put this in. And in case you're wondering, you can't go straight across, of course, because you got the bolts. Just kind of move it over one notch, and you should get out of the way of the bolt. But now, she actually spins a lot easier there. So it's a weird deal, like, combination of, yes, it's kind of partially seized, but it's also that something with a compression makes it even worse. So it's a combination like that. So we've pulled the spark plug. That, for my case, is a 17mm. Just try what sockets you have. I've pre-loosened what's here for the timing chain area here on the top side. So this will get in with the cam and the chain. And yes, timing is good, not even slightly off. So I know that that wasn't an issue. And you're going to have, of course, lots of bolts. What I personally recommend that we do here is, in my case, where I work, we get some bottles of like soap stuff to sell, basically. And they put them in the bags. Nice. And these are heavy-duty bags, considering the size of stuff. So basically, a heavy-duty freezer bag would work as well. Everything like that should be just fine. I'm hoping my phone is starting to do its thing again. I'm hoping it doesn't overheat, because that's going to be a lot of editing pain, but that's okay. We keep aside the bolts and the nuts and whatever else we get. This should pretty much come off by hand. Sometimes it might not. It might fight you a little bit. Personally, this is my friend, being very gentle, gripping it up towards the top, provided you can by hand get it far enough over. There you go. Don't worry too much about anything more than making sure that these three do need to be tightened, so that way our baffle for our oil return here is good, or breather. I'm not sure which exactly that's supposed to be, but we want to make sure that these stay nice and tight. Double check those because they could potentially cause an issue itself. Up next, should have our 14 mil. No. Okay. So that is going to be, just got to find one. We got a 13. Nope, 12 millimeter. Definitely. All right. So we've got our 12 millimeter here. Everything for the motor is going to be in metric, so I definitely recommend buying a wide range set of wrenches, everything at least from an 8. Personally, I would say 6 millimeter because there may be a random 6 millimeter somewhere. I haven't curved one yet. All the way up to 20. So that for wrenches and sockets, as well as ratchets to drive them. Go ahead and put this on. Always double check your direction before you use. And this may not come off by hand, because of course you're going to be attempting to turn the motor. So in my case, I don't have a pipe or anything like that to help with this. And I also don't have a 12 millimeter that'll fit, I don't think, with that sized. So we're going to do the old give it a shot, but that's not working. It's just turning the motor. Which, even on this side, you can see it got loose there for a second. And it will be loose. And now it's kind of loosened up a little bit. And then it hits this tight spot again like that. Each stroke, pretty much. So, that's not going to work. Grab a really long rod. We'll wedge that on in here so that way it'll hit the floor. And that should allow us to pop this loose. Personally, I would say use an impact, but being that my only impact is a 1/2 inch drive, and I don't have a 1/2 inch drive 12 millimeter with me, that's definitely going to be something else of an issue there. So there we go. Get that. This may not quite want to stay right, but I'm going to give it a shot. That does not want to work, so I will have to come back. If we want to pull this off, we can start with tearing off the head and everything else. I will come right back with that torn off. Okay. Let the frame rate kind of stabilize for maybe a moment. If it's not, I don't know, maybe it's just a preview, but this is all that I did. I have a torque wrench here. Set it all the way up so that way I don't activate it, and just give it a really hard, quick twist, and it actually pops. So you may need an impact, you may just need a good arm. Now we can pull this off, and there's going to be tension on the chain, so we don't want to pull this fully out, but we'll loosen it up so that way it's ready to go. For the chain, I have previously popped these loose. This is the tensioner, and some people will bypass this back here, basically putting a bolt in, because the automatic part sometimes doesn't work quite too great, but in my case it is still working fine. The chain is still pretty tight. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but it's still pretty tight. Definitely could be replaced. Probably something I will do when reassembly. We'll see though, because if this is beyond repair, no point in replacing things that can't fix the motor, you know. So go ahead and we'll pull this apart. And there we go. Try to make sure you pull those out evenly to some extent. And also when you do pull this, do not loosen that. Unless you have a way, like a vise or something, you can keep this compressed, then loosen it, and then you can recompress it maybe, but there's like a ball bearing and all kinds of, it's a hassle, so that's why people will drill these out, because actually getting it reset is a pain. It's almost easier to buy one, even though they're really rare. So we're going to set, I had to switch down my quality because the phone started overheating, go figure, and I'm indoors, not even outside. Old phones, old joy. Anyway, you see I put back the bolts here. personally, if you can go back into a part where it goes, put it back. That way you don't have any confusion about another bolt that might be just slightly shorter or longer and have an issue with something. And and try to thread it all the way in. Don't just put it a couple threads, because if you're moving it around, maybe it bumps or something, it falls out, you don't realize it, you lose it. And then you get in a whole nother issue again. Now, we've gotten that, and our tensioner off. And hopefully frame rate is keeping up here with the phone. It's a good phone, it's just old, so you know how that thing kind of goes. Go ahead and we work this out by hand. Making sure to keep our fingers clear and anything that can possibly move or jump or anything like that. And we're going to go ahead and add that for bag bolts. Now you can be extra, get yourself smaller bags that are heavier duty and label them and everything on which exact area they go, but I'm pretty good at keeping an eye on what I got and where it needs to go. Then we'll go ahead and grab ourselves any little screwdriver or anything like that to try to pop this off. There's going to be a pin. The chain may fall down, but try not to lose the wheel in there. This is going to take a little bit of wiggling here. So we do have a little bit of chain tension on there. This more so just weight. In my case, this is not playing so funny. There we go. So we could drop the chain. That's not so big of an issue because that will be able to be pulled out when the head comes off. But I do not want to leave the cam sprocket in there. I do want to have that pulled out. So that's a little bit of a fight. But if we get a start in getting the teeth off of the chain, the rest of it will follow and you get yourself your sprocket off. Now when you go to put this back on, pay close attention to this tab here. Make sure that that lines back up inside the motor where it goes. I know I don't have a view right now, but essentially it's just a little spot here where this slots right in, and this tab will have a hole that lines up with that. Of course, you can also have a lot of oil, so get yourself a towel. Something, go to Goodwill, buy a couple towels, something like that. If you can't, paper towel, let it roll. I happen to have me a roll of paper towel that I left outside on accident, so I did get fully rain soaked, but believe it or not, you let it dry and you don't touch it, it works just fine. So just do that, try to keep my fingers a little bit clean. I'm going to wipe off some of the oil and the excess of the circle here. And now comes the fun part. We have a total of 8 bolts, 4 here, and I believe there's going to be 4 more down here. Well, I see 2 right here. I haven't wanted to take a look at the manual or anything. This is all by fly, but I know there's a couple down in the bottom, but we're going to want to start top to bottom in this one. They have stamped numbers up here. Go a quarter turn at a time. Do not get overzealous with this or anything, because you want to make sure that all of your bolts and your head and everything stay good. This looks like this is not a 13 this time. Let's see what we got. We use the big wrench on this for sure. Organizers help too. In my case, it's just by every 5mm bracket. So we got 15. That's a little bit on the loose side. Let's see if the 14 fits and works better. And here, this is another 15. Here's a 14. Now, 11. And this red. This is a 13. You know I have a 14 in here. It's a matter of finding it. Some of these are a bit older and whatnot. Here's a 14. So yes, 14 fits, but we do not want to use this style. You want to try to use this style. So make sure that you pay attention on that as well, because you can strip out bolts, especially when they're higher torque like that. So for right now, I'm going to set these aside that I don't have a size for, and if I don't have it, wrenches can still work. And it looks like I'm not going to have it. This is a 12. This is likely, yeah, this is also a 12-point socket. This goes on, or we have e-torque styles as well. There's an external torque bit, basically inverted torques. So I do not have in here 14mm socket handy, but I should up here I have a 13mm on there. Okay. do apologize for any loud noises that come through here as I dig. But we want to find what we can, and in this case, the box end is a little bit loose. So this may be something that's a standard, I don't know, and maybe the 13 will work, it just doesn't want to. Let's see what we can figure here. Let's try that 13 again. No, so this may be a standard for the head size. Would be a little surprising considering this is a Kawasaki. Grab one of my bins here, I've got some of these. Just play around with the sockets until you find one that fits really good. In this case, 9/16 looks like that fits pretty dang good and allows me to get a ratchet on there. I am going to go ahead, use the big one here. So, we have here exhaust side closer to me. We're going to use 1, 2, 3, and then 4 quarter turn at a time until they are fully loose. Then we can start peeling them apart that way. So let's start with number 1. There's number 1, just that little bit like that. Number 2. Number 2. Number 3. That one was actually surprisingly loose compared to the rest, so I have a feeling this may have been apart at some point. I'm running into number 4 being really tight, to the point that I'm rotating the whole motor. Let's go like this. Number 4. A little bit loose, so it may not be a 9/16, but it seems to be what's the best fit. And it is not churning on number 4, so I have a feeling this has been torn apart at some point previously. That could contribute to why it's not running. Somebody didn't do it right. Let's see if I can get this to more so not hitting that so bad. Definitely worth also making sure you have a torque wrench to get this, borrowing one from somewhere if you have to. And yeah, it's just, it swivels a lot easier than it would look like it would. So alright, well I'll come back after I get these cracked off here. Okay, so definitely has been apart before. I've never seen a bolt go white. And if you take a look, not only do we have some magnet stuff going on here, but this is broke. This did not get fully out. It has broken. So this was definitely over-torqued at some point. I mean, you can see it just did the classic, it just twisted out, so it'll have to be drilled out and tapped and re-tapped and everything like that, provided there's enough room on the path down to put up a bolt that is just a hair bigger, just enough to get new threads in. I have a drink of Mountain Dew to try to undo, but otherwise, the rest of the bolts are free and loose and spinning good. They are not broken, not just pull up. Yeah, because I heard a big pop and I thought, first I thought I broke this. I was hoping, but bolts are smaller than the adapter is. As far as the metal diameter there at the threads, it's probably like, well, it's definitely under 3/8, because that's the drive, is probably closer to a quarter thread, quarter-inch of solid metal. Not counting the threads there, but yeah. Adds to complexity. So this is what it's actually supposed to look like, and I think what's happened is this is a new one, this is likely an old one. Just judging by the weight of these, this one definitely feels a lot lighter, though it looks like it still has the flange and everything here, so this could be an original, this could be a factory replacement here. Not too sure. These guys can lay out because, well, what else is going to take that size of bolts, right? Go ahead and pull this one, and Now that these are hand free, right? Quarter churn at a time. Take maybe a full churn to get them loose. And there's another one. We got some bits of metal though inside. And I don't know if the bolts go through into an open section or anything like that. I've never seen the inside of one of these in person, at least. I've never paid attention. And like I said, I haven't looked through the manual on how to do this. This is all based off of what I do know about small engines. So definitely got to get me a new one of these. If anybody's ever seen a bolt turn white, let me know why only one of these is turned white. Like, the only thing I can think about is it was reused and over tightened in this case as well. But yeah. Now, let's see. That should be the start here. And then we're going to have, I'm guessing, a couple of 10 mils right here. Now, these are just easy enough to turn by a wrench. Granted, you may need to grab a ratchet depending on how worn and old your model may be. We're just going to work our way down until this comes off. And I do have a really nice big hammer, so if I have to give her a couple taps just to free her up, I will. But if you're going to do that, make sure to be extra cautious not to hit anything that could break, especially these fins. You want to be careful on how you hit them if you do. Personally, try to avoid it, but I've been known to do stupider things than that. We're going to have to probably find a 10 millimeter socket here. I should have one. I think it's a 9 grabbing, yeah. That one's a 9. Of course, 10 millimeters, man, they love to run away, so it wouldn't surprise me if I don't have one in here. 9 and 8, I don't in here. I do have more sockets outside, but we'll just go ahead and hold these by hand here. And keep an eye on my phone, make sure it's not stopped with the recording. And this one's kind of like gumming in a way for a while here. It definitely could use some help. So if I had something like PB Blaster, that would work great, which I do, but that's outside, and I'm not too concerned. It is spinning freely. There really isn't any way to get anything to free up those head bolts, though, so that was a no matter what is going to happen type of a deal. Because using an impact maybe could have worked, but I think somehow or another water got into that spot. Maybe that's where the white is from. I'm not sure. I have never seen a bolt turn white, and I'm really doubtful that is actually paint itself. I think that's some form of corrosion there, but I've never even seen metal turn white like that. And I'm pretty sure these are all steel fasteners. Like, there's another one that's all crappy with another one that's good. So I'm not sure what's up with the fasteners like that. These bolts are weird. Gotten that far, and so far nothing more that way. So I don't know if I'm missing anything anywhere. I've got this one pin all the way down on the left on this side here. Let's go ahead and pull that one as well. And if you see bolts going across, they're usually related to either these covers or cracking the case in half, or something along those lines. Maybe the starter. In this case, there's a couple back here for the starter, but you want to focus on the ones going down for the most part here. And we're going to try to remove what little we can just to get in here to see what we need to do first. So this looks like this has been replaced. This is a different grade bolt than all the others we've seen because of the coloring of the metal here. So definitely starting to look like somebody's been in here. Hopefully they did not do what I think they did and get the 330cc big bore kit put into it, because if that was the case, well, it wouldn't be too good. That's for sure, because there is no room for improvement. I'd have to get in the head. Speaking of, you can see mine here. Don't see anything else in here. down, so I am very unsure of what I may be missing. Unless there's something underneath these covers for the valves. I've done the valve black before, but I never noticed there being any form of a deal there. So these are just an 8mm, and always pay attention, it's actually stamped in there, it says up, so that's the way you want towards the top of the motor. Still recording, and just the valves themselves. The valve is currently in access, it is being pushed. I don't see anything underneath the cover there, so I'm not sure on what else I may be missing here to pull this off. I do want to note, looks like potentially there's a guide here for the chain on this side. It looks like that may be a little messed up. Also got, looks like this may have been a replacement head, just because the machining down there doesn't quite line up the way I would think it would for that section, but I don't think there's anything else to really grab in here, because the cam and everything should be separate from the rest of the lower half of the motor. And I don't think there's going to be any screws here to pull to get that separated. So I'm going to go ahead, double check my research, and we'll come back after I get it off. Okay, so I was right. Should basically be able to preferably use a crowbar here, actually, which I don't own one. Go figure, that's the one thing I don't own. But something along those lines, and we don't want to go underneath fins, so I'm going to actually use that. There we go. We got a little bit of movement here. And then we want to see if we can get this other side to come up and try to lift it straight off. And it can be difficult because you're going to have the piston in there, which we are catching a little bit. There we go. So first thing, I want to take a look on the inside here. And I can see some moderate scoring, it looks like, all on what would be the exhaust side of the piston, our cylinder wall here. But it appears, yeah, there is a gash or something in there, pretty good one. So we do have that. We got some dust and debris that's gotten in here, but that's most likely just from pulling this, and this gasket you will want to just replace. But we can see where that stud is going to be all the way on down. So there we can see what my issue is. There's the issue. That should not be moving that much. So that's basically going to allow the piston to bind onto one side or the other. And that would be the main bearing. And it has completely thrown that main bearing. I can actually, if I set this here, I'll take you guys on down. We got the flash on, and if we take a look, so it is not a sleeve bearing like you would see in cars and stuff. This is going to be a lot closer to like the needle bearings you would typically see in the top here, where they got little rollers all the way around that. And we can see right here, not only is there a chunk, it looks like, of the shaft there taken out, potentially. It could be built that way, I think it is. But we've also got all this slop. And if we take a good look here, you can see our sliders here as well, but you can see underneath the bearing is actually kind of shot down in there. I've also read about the shaft potentially being an issue, so we could feel on the skirt. Ideally, you don't want to see anything that's like this. Let alone feel anything like that, but what I do want to know is if this is the factory piston or not, because this could have been potentially rebuilt at some point and rebuilt incorrectly to cause this. I know that it was typically said that these would go to about, what was it, like 40, 45, and this one had done 50, so there's potential it was rebuilt. We can carefully take off these rings as well. I personally would rather take them off. So we'll go like that. We don't want them bent. We want to keep them straight and everything, even though I'm probably not going to reuse these. Just to be safe, always keep everything in good condition as you can when you're pulling it off. We've got another one here. So what we're going to do is, I'm doing this one-handed, so it's a little bit more difficult. Go ahead and pull this back and hopefully pull it back here. Here we go. We're going to go ahead and pull it up one, maybe, that will let me. And hopefully just work that all the way around the piston here. But it's not really letting me. So maybe we can do something different there. Let's see. See if I can get it to come around more. So I can't get my finger on that side or this side now. Kind of gotten it into a spot. So what we'll do is I will go ahead and set the phone back to where it was. There we go. And yeah, I mean, we don't have a lot of space in the skirt here, which this is definitely not 1.5 millimeters worth of skirt space, or even 1 millimeter, I would say. Maybe 1 millimeter, maybe, but I think this has been rebuilt and potentially improperly as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I've got to grab that little tiny flathead that I had. Absolutely beautiful tool. Very carefully, I'm going to try and feed this around to that upper spot. This is very good if you also do want to save rings. Just go ahead and take your time. Never rush when you're tearing down something like this. Even if you're in a case like mine to where it is clearly bearing has been shot out. Hopefully it did not chew up the shaft or the connecting rods so I can reuse those, but if not, then if not, you know. So chase this around a good ways. It won't come all the way around on its own. And we're going to need to carefully pry that out. Down into the oil ring there. There we go. Now we can start taking it up. Work her around in a circle. That's in the way. There we go. There's our secondary ring. So I will add this on top. And then these guys can just stay. The oil system rings here and all that can stay. We should have a little clip in here. A handle for the screwdriver to spin. So it's not very helpful when trying to handle these. You want to be a little careful if you want to reuse it, but these I personally do not think should be reused ever. Just because there's always that risk of them getting bent anyway. And there it goes. I'll find that at some point. So this one I'm just going to cover it with my hand. And do be careful if you do that. It may hurt a little bit. It will shoot on out there. Also make sure you don't stab yourself with the screwdriver. That's the more important part in my opinion. But go ahead and do that. So there we go. So I caught it. And as we can see, that is already bent just from me moving that. Now, yeah, we could try and bend it back, but now that metal's fatigued, and there's always that possibility of it breaking anyway. So we get that out. Then we've got our sleeve here. That needs to come out. It doesn't want to. And I'm missing. Should just come right out of there. Wiggle this back and forth a little bit. There we go. starting to come out a little ways. Just a little bit though. A little slow. So what we can do is grab ourselves a socket that fits in there. And that looks like a 13 mil. And when you do this, be very gentle. We are actually pushing that through, and this is going to essentially replace its position here. There we go. The socket's in there, but because it's a hair bit smaller, 13 millimeter works. Now we want to look and see if there's any stamping on anything here. And I don't see any stamping underneath, so this actually may be original. There is 430 on there and ART. So ART may be a factory style replacement piston though. We have our oil galleys right here. These are 4. There's also oil galleys right here underneath that go to the ring to help keep their oil up here on the skirt. That's awesome to see. You know, I mean, whether or not that's factory design or factory piston, that's another one I do not know. But I can tell you right now, I'm seeing a piece of metal right there, just hanging on in. So we've definitely got a little bit of carnage in here. And we're going to have to split the case to actually get down into that bearing. And that's a bigger job. So here's our roller though. You can definitely see this has been used, and we got some scarring going on in the secondary line right here. There's actually grooves and everything I can feel, so that likely was hitting somewhere, yes, on this side of the piston. Feel that here too. Yep, I don't even need a fingernail, it's just my finger. I can feel that. I can see it's scored on into there a little bit. The other side has a little bit of wearing up on the top. That's about it. And there's actually a lip on this casting on the edge here where the ring goes. But on the outside right here, there's a lip here. So not exactly great at that. But what I want to know is there's going to be a number printed on this thing. So I happen to have somewhere some sandpaper box. And some sandpaper, whichever one I can find first. In this case, it is some aggressive sandpaper. This is 80 grit. Just being gentle. I'm going to try to get some of this off so I can better read this. And it says, it looks like 100, it says on there. It's very difficult to see. I don't even know if you guys are quite getting it right or not. Let me turn on the preview here to make sure that I'm getting you guys. So we can see right there, it looks like it's saying 100. So this is an aftermarket cylinder, 1 millimeter maybe. So I can do at best 0.5 millimeter of an up on it, and that typically is what takes. So this has probably been rebuilt. Now this could be factory over bore as well, but I was right on that it has been redone. And I mean, we can see almost like a little triangle right there too. So yeah, the device is overheating because I got the flashlight on, so I may cut out again here and have to come back, but there we go. We can see a little triangle right there. That is actually to go which way the piston goes, which that is supposed to go towards the exhaust side if I remember correctly. So there's more soot right here because it kind of collects right underneath that side, and with where the spark plugs and everything are. And what I do want to say is that it looks like not only did that blow out, but there's also supposed to be a spacer bearing in between both sides, I think. And it looks like we only have it on one side. So this has been rebuilt at some point, and I mean, I'm seeing some bits of what look like copper in here, or brass, most likely brass to be honest with you, but because copper is not typically used as a bushing, it's brass that is. So it's really seeming like, here's where we got that bolt, but it seems like they just did not put that other sleeve in there. likely due to it just not fitting and being lazy or impatient or something, and that has caused this failure that we've got here. I did get it to run a couple of times, but it just did not go very well, and so we're going to have to split the case, and to do that is probably going to be in another video, but we've gotten a clue of what's happened here. I can see some of the rollers in here are just, yeah, gone. They're just moving. There's one here, and then another one here that is just rolling, and this is staying. So that is definitely blown apart there. Shouldn't have this much slop. Either that copper bearing had failed and fallen through, but I don't know about that. It looks like there was moisture likely in here too. We got something of a line of brown in there. I'm not sure exactly what that may be. Some sort of gasket sealant or something like that, maybe. So we can, though, take off this gasket very carefully. Here. I mean, it's going to need to be replaced, but we don't want to damage the mating surface by any means. So there's that. And yeah, I mean, this is not the only thing that's bad, as I can tell already, because it should move relatively easily, and it's not. So we're going to go ahead and pull this, and I mean, yeah, that's moving a little bit easier, but let me just. I think we've got more failure than that in there. Although I do want to be cautious because I have the chain in here too. Go ahead and hold that up. I mean, it moves this way easier, so it's probably just the transmission catching there. It's probably no longer in neutral. Now this is where we're hitting a spot. Resistance. It isn't that. That isn't the problem. But yeah, this just goes to show, like, I might need to get a whole new motor, to be honest, if I want to keep this thing, because this crankshaft, the bearing surface there could be bad now. And yeah, this is kind of sad, but what can we do? I'm going to have to go ahead and pull this in half, and I'll probably do that, get it all ready and everything like that. But yeah, we got ourselves the head off, and it's kind of an interesting looking gasket here, a bit plastic but paper, and it looks like this is the one thing that I hate that I see people do. This white on here looks like some form of a silicone or RTV has been applied. Yeah, you can see it has been. So I don't know if that's a factory seal or not, but there was RTV on this, and with these small motors, try to avoid using it, and if you do, very, very thin amounts, because it can get into the oil galleys, block sections up, and possibly even cause this as well. So I'm hoping that this bushing has just blown out, and it wasn't actually forgotten, because if it was forgotten, I mean, that would explain a lot of that. Yeah. I think that's where we're going to leave it here. I'll get this all ready for next episode, probably in a week, and get it torn apart and get it ready to go. Otherwise, guys, that's going to be it for today. Make sure to know what you're doing if you're doing this. Don't be one of these guys and leave out a whole spacer, if that's the case of what happened here. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.